0, even 2, also known as work money outside. So the benefit of me coming last is our seniors, right? I'm 08, that's 03, 06, 07. So our seniors have given us a fair amount of insight. Hopefully I will be able to just draw from that. So I thought I'd start by telling you a little bit about myself. Does anybody know this picture? Any chance? Yeah? Anybody does? No? No, if you've been to my alma mater, you know this. So I just borrowed this off my alma mater's website. It's the temple in BITS Pilani, which is where I studied. First four terms, I was very regular there, close to end term, right? Bhagwan, which got there. I went to the peace of God. After that, I was there except at end terms. Just doesn't help. Anyways, the grades are always bad. So, if you're able to read, I was in BITS from 91 to 96. Got out of there, fire and blood. Had to do programming. That is the time when Y2K was in the annual. There was good scope. India was discovered as an avenue for good IT engineers. I jumped in, I started my career on the mainframe, did a fair amount of programming at ANZ. I was stood for an Australia and New Zealand bank. They used to be in India. They then sold everything to Standard Chartered and got out. So I did a lot of banking software. Started as a programmer, moved up the ladder. I became a lead of a team. I finally became an architect. Then I sort of got tired of what I was doing. I shifted to a company called Tavant Technologies, which was a captive unit that was making products specifically in the loans origination space, right? So today when you go to, let's say, an ICICI bank or an Indian bank, you want to take a loan, a fair amount of it is automated. That didn't used to be the case about 10 years ago. 10 years ago seems like a very long time, right? So you took your documents and you went back with your documents and then you went back more documents, all that crap used to happen. So I was, the team that I was working with, we actually had a very ambitious project to automate the complete end-to-end loan origination system, right? You simply go one day and then everything else that needs to get done before the money is disbursed to you, we were attempting to do in a fully automated fashion. We did fairly well. Unfortunately, as we were finishing the subprime crisis hit the US, I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. Basically, companies gave money left, right, center. There were a lot of people to refinance their loans, basically building up debt 10 years into the future that they had no way to really satisfy. So the company I was part of, or the mothership, actually went bust. And I shifted to a company called KTSA Corporation. So if any of you has lived in the US, you know that everybody has a credit score, right? That defines everything you get. Anywhere you go, whether it's a credit card, loan, car, house. So this company, KTSA Corporation, owns that credit score, the algorithm behind it basically. Different credit bureaus, they pay money, license it, and they come out with what is referred to as an individual's credit score. So I had sort of grown a little tired of just being part of technology, coding, managing technology. I thought why not time I had a consulting. So I was part of a team of 10 consultants. I had a director of I was sort of running a team of about 8 people. And we consulted on a bunch of products that KTSA had, all primarily for the Indian market, but a little outside too. Then ISP happened. I came in here. And I was lucky, I did a lot of things, tried a lot of things. I think more by happen chance than because of my diligent efforts. I ended up landing Microsoft. Some of the companies that I was interested in then, or I would be interested in today if I wanted to make a move out, big companies like this. I'd probably try to go to an Adobe or an Amazon because they're right here next door. I might choose to go to a Computer Associates, obviously Google, a whole bunch of startups, especially in the e-commerce space, right? You guys are following industry, companies like Myntra, Flipkart, a lot of consolidation happening, many more startups. So these are some of the kind of companies that I was looking at back then, or on my extreme days of frustration, Microsoft think that I should have gone here instead. Little bit of yarn, if you will. Again, I'm going to shamelessly build on what the others have said earlier, but I'll start with my thoughts. As you can see, they're fairly limited. So what are the product delivery roles you can expect? Like Kiran said, when you talk about product management, right, it's a very vast space, and it's literally like those 3 blind men touching the elephant. One thinks the elephant is really thin, and the other one thinks it's really fat, and the third one thinks it's tough because they're all touching at different parts, right? So if you come to companies like Microsoft, when we say product management, we're referring to what we really actually say program management, which is we're talking about taking technology and delivering it first step, right? And we look to focus rather narrowly on that aspect of the problem. We actually leave out some other aspects of the problem to other people. So for example, when it comes to Microsoft, knowing what the industry is doing, really knowing what customers want, what are the competitors asking for, and all that we call product planning. And product planners do it. we have product marketing teams, right? So they're like, okay, give me the product and I'll actually take it back to the customer and I'll tell them how much they have to price for it and how much, what's going to be their annual licenses, how they would renew, all that and so on and so forth. It's all product marketing. What we do is more like program management. And this is sort of similar to what Google considers as product manager, or even Amazon would call product management, which is you have something that's the scope of a technical problem, right? Take that technical problem, and then I'm actually going to jump a little bit. So then what we do is we say we strategize on the product, right? What is the vision that you want, and then a little bit of information that's come from elsewhere saying, okay, you know that you're in this space and somebody else is doing something. I'll take a live example. I work in what is referred to as the unified communication space, right? If you've used something like a Yahoo Messenger, Gtalk, all this is good for consumer stuff, right? You want to chat with your friends, all that is good. But when you go into your company, simple things like you want it to be 100%, if not more, reliable. It has to work every single time. You want it to be secure. You want it to be archived, right? Supposing somebody tomorrow comes and says, okay, there's a legal case, and bring up all of the information. What files did you transfer? So on and so forth. All that level of reliability only an enterprise product can give. So that's the space that I'm in. So we pick some amount of competitive information, we pick some amount of product planning, we take that and we come up with our strategy on what the product should do from a technical perspective. This is how it's going to solve a customer problem. And then we do a fair amount of project managing the product. This is about saying, in the product space, you typically start and say there's a 1-year cycle or a 2-year cycle. So, in fact, I actually work, we call it Office, if you guys are familiar with Microsoft Office, right? There is going to be a release that will come sometime end of this year or early next year. Say 2 years ago, it was stipulated saying this has to happen in this period of time. That's all that's told to people. Nobody's told, okay, now you spend the first 6 months doing this, and the next 6 months doing that, monitor on a daily basis, weekly basis, send status reports. A fair amount of that happens, but that is sort of ancillary to the whole thing. So we project manage the product, we obviously come up with plans, we do resourcing, we find out when people are going on leave or not, what is going to happen about holiday schedules, are you going to meet milestones, deliverables, all that we do. And this is really, really what we do. We specify what it should do. We specify things like when the customer comes, the user of the product comes and he signs in, then something needs to happen. And then if he does this and he says, I want to send a file, this needs to happen. So we actually get right down, dirty hands, if you will, as Kiran said. So that's roughly the level at which we start. And then we design the solution, right? So this is probably a little bit of a Microsoft bent to it, but I believe this is quite similar to other companies that are in the similar product space. We then actually try to design the solution. So how should this work? And then we go and actually evangelize it. So in all of these companies, right, because the program managers end up having a fair amount of liberty on what they have to do, they're actually given very little control on what to do. Now imagine if I was allowed to decide what I wanted to do, and actually I could stipulate to the developers on how it should be done, and I could go stipulate to the testers how it should be tested or whatever, and the marketers to say how they should market it. I could actually go and screw a whole lot of things up. So I'm actually given very little control on the whole process. I'm allowed to do these things, but I have to now go and convince other people that what I'm thinking, what I want to do is the correct thing for the product. Right? Now, this might be my role, responsibility to do this, but other people are equally smart, if not more smart. They'll come back with their own ideas. So, you know what, no, the customer never wants this. Last year we went to a visit and they said this is what we wanted. That's why we bring in our own, so to speak, intelligence, combine a lot of information, say, this is why I want something to be done and so on. And finally, we take care of delivering the product, right? You've got to make sure that as things go towards the 2-year cycle, especially in biggest companies like Microsoft, enterprise products, your primary sales happens as and when the product is released, and then it tends to dip down as in anticipation of the next one and so on. You have to make sure that you meet your deliverables. If you don't meet your deliverables, as the newest mantra in our company is, a result is not equal to a good story. Right? You might have a fabulous story about why something happened and all that, doesn't count. Did you deliver or not? Product done is much better than perfection attempted. Stuff like that, right? So it's very important to go and deliver the product. In this space, I've sort of been involved with helping with recruitment, helping with students understand Microsoft, get the best people and so on. One big disconnect I often find in people that come in here is that we don't understand what it means for, what is the meaning of revenue for companies like this? Revenue is just one thing. It's just in delivering software, hardware products, right? Everybody said it, it cannot be said more. It is not about consulting. In this space per se, right? It's not about consulting. It's not about coming up with services per se. It's not about telling customers how they can use it. It's about actually giving them the product that they can do it. You then use that to do cross-sell, upsell, right? If somebody buys an Office, we then go and tell them, okay, this is how you could do it better. Okay, so Microsoft has some consulting. Do you want to additionally buy it? by the way, you bought Microsoft Office, it integrates beautifully with this other product, would you consider buying it? So first and foremost, it's about technology that cannot be emphasized enough, and then it's about recognizing that until you put that software or hardware product into people's hands, you have nothing in there. So some thoughts on preparation. I might differ a bit from what some of the others said. If I got a resume that said this person has got 3 patents and has developed this kind of code and stuff like that, sure, you have to quantify it. You have to tell me why that code was useful for you. But I guarantee you, program managers in Microsoft will start salivating on that resume. They'll say, I want it, and I'll be like, no, you saw it first, but I got it first. I want to talk to this person first. Because it's about delivering technology. It's about having people who understand what it means, and it's primarily that. Everything else sort of comes secondary to that. Generally, when you see IT in action, spend some time wondering about how it works. Okay, this is sort of a little bit of a plug towards what your eventual interviews will be like. Right? So we'll do some more detailed sessions. Right? No point flooding you guys with information about all that at this point in time. But your interviews in this space will predominantly be, and by this space and carving out something inside IT itself, saying this is about product delivery space. Right? It's going to be about how would you deliver this product? Or there is this product that's already existing. How would you go and modify it? Why do you think these modifications are useful? Or if you had this, would you pick that kind of a product and invest money in buying it? Or would you actually go and make this product yourself? Do some sort of a make or buy analysis. That's the kind of mental mindset that you guys have to develop from now, leading up to about 7 months in the future when you'll actually go into your interviews. Recognize that the IT landscape changes real rapidly. Now, do any of those names make sense to you guys? TechCrunch, Gigo?
Yeah.
Sorry?
TechCrunch, Engadget.
Great. So,
Engadget.
So, yeah, if you want to know everything about the latest, sexiest, geekiest gadget, you go to Engadget. If you want to know something about what is the strategy that the overall industry is taking, where is search going, where is video going, where is device going, where is TV going, you go to a site like Gigo. TechCrunch, well, you know, jack of all trades kind of thing. All things digital. It's Wall Street Journal's IT blog, if you will. You know, Walt Moss were together. People like Steve Jobs go up to that guy and say, you know what, we're releasing the next version of iPhone. Would you mind just profiling us? Because we're most happy to do it. But that's the level at which those guys go. The reason to put this here is, can I tell you, can I quantify and say if you read all this, it's going to help you either land an interview or do well in an interview? Not. But I can tell you this much, that if you've not done this, at a later point, everybody will come and tell you to do this, and then you'll scramble. In the last 10 days, when you've got to really be calm and think about something, you'll be wondering, okay, what are the latest blogs I should pick? So I would advise that now, when you still have 7 months to go, start thinking about stuff like this. Pick your favorite. Now I have no pressure other than just focus on my job. So I actually subscribe to 20 different blogs and I can pick and choose what I want. You guys don't have that liberty. Pick a few, see what makes sense, think about that. And finally, focus on your grades, right? CGPA question mark is a very valid thing because it's useful, not useful. In my batch, when we were interviewed, 3 of us eventually made it. A lot of people were interviewed. I'm sure there's a beautiful sinusoidal graph. Which way should it go? Okay, something like that. I know. Yet the 3 people that got recruited, one was very good on CG, one was average, one was pretty bad. But they all had fabulous stories, right? I'm including myself in there, but we all had a reasonably good story. When I made my resume, my background, like I said, was I started in services, and I went on to do something in products, and then I went on to do something in consulting. So my happy plug was, people said when they did my resume review, you know, you're showing too much of spread, you're all over the place. I twisted it around to my benefit and said that I'm a candidate that has exposure to all 3. So no matter what the kind of role that the company wants to give, I actually have exposure. So something like that. I made a story out of what could be perceived as a weakness, but to me it was a fabulous strength. So grades wise, we were across the board, but I think we were all good fits for the company, along with the other 47 odd people that were all interviewed at that point in time. So do focus on your grades, right? It is important. You know the story about what helps you, let's say even to get into ISB, right? It's ACADS, it's your extracurriculars, what you do in here. When you want to compensate for something, this is a fabulous way to compensate, right? It makes sure that when people see your resume, if you have a great story, great. But what if your story is just a little weak? Then you should have something on this. So that's actually about it. That's all. So what we can do now is pretty much throw it open to any of the questions that you want to.